I would like to start my presentation by thanking Zimt for inviting us and bringing all us together. I just quickly checked, of course, when I first heard about Zimt, like, is it something to put onto my dessert? Yeah, but it was not. It meant stands for Zentrum für Immersive Medienkunst, Musik und Technologie in German, and the English translation of it, Center for Immersive Media Art, Music and Technology. I was informed prior to this conference that the audience will be quite diverse, so I try to do something as diverse as possible, not purely technical, not purely creative, but my aim in this presentation is to kind of merge these two worlds, and starting with creative process and then connecting it to the live environment. Exactly. So, and thank you. And my focus will be object-based audio, and what it is, what it does, and how do we use it will be more detailed throughout the presentation. As mentioned, starting with creative approaches, and then how do we connect to system design, how do we do show control, and finally a little touch to the post-production will be the topic of our presentation until lunchtime. So, a painting on the wall. This is an analogy that I like very much because it indicates the creation of the art process very vividly, for me at least. Let's see if it will work for you too. Imagine this as a painting hanging on your wall. It's done by your favorite artist. It's framed nicely and it's been hanging on your, let's say, living room. And until it came to your wall on that condition, it started as an idea of the artist, right? There was an idea of a picture in mind that needed to be printed on a canvas. And then, of course, the artist needed some tools like, what was the name of this thing? Palette, and brush and some paint, right? Depending on this imagination, this art in mind, she or he needed certain colors and certain brushes, certain tools to create this art. And finally, it was framed nicely so it can be demonstrated to your guests and loved ones in your living room. So, I see the canvas part of it, this empty frame, as the system design approach, because generally when the artist comes to us, she or, may I change to this microphone because it's a bit hard to hold this. Just for a second. Yeah, much easier, thank you. So, when the artists come to us, she or he maybe has an idea already in mind, or she or he is designing for that particular system design. That's also a way to the live production. Means, if I have a content coming to me that was designed for a 360 room maybe, with everything flying around, I have to prepare my system design accordingly. This is what artist needs. Or maybe artist comes to a venue and sees a 180 degree installation just in the front, a bunch of speakers above the venue. Then maybe the artist needs to then implement his or her art to this system design that's available in that particular menu. And then the painting itself, this nice tree and the home and the benches, I see it as the live show itself, the art of painting. When the artist starts with a brush and then uses this color and that color, that is for me the live show then at the end in my analogy. and the brush and the paints represents the technology, and finally the frame is the post-production. So as you can see already, everything is quite connected. It's the chicken egg paradox. You can recognize this immediately. So who we are gonna take as reference? Is it the artist we take as reference? Is it the venue? Is it the system design? Is it the show design will be implemented to the artist's approach, or vice versa? Is it the tools that artists needs to just accept and use, or do we need to build tools for artists' needs? Like, there is no correct answer in that. I can already give a spoiler. Like, everything is connected, and communication is the key. Like, of course, creation is connected to show design, and of course, vice versa is also true. I brought you an example from one of the favorite artists of mine, Brigitta Muntendorf, also a part of the Sahin community and working very close with Felix and the others. This is a trailer from our Bregenz show. It's already, I think, shortly after COVID, something like 2022. This show was touring. We just did it recently in Berlin. Berliner Festspiele mit Musikmärz. And I will just let you listen for a moment. It's just a minute of expert, and I will talk further.
It's okay to feel alone. Usually you are. It's okay to feel alone. Usually you are. It's okay to feel alone.
Also natürlich habe ich dann auch oft gedacht, irgendwie, ja, ich meine, damals haben wir uns hinterher noch eine Stunde zusammengesetzt und eine unmögliche Stelle so lange geprobt, bis es geht.
Alleine,
kannst du ja gar nicht mehr machen.
Das ist so vereinzelt.
So you saw probably all this orchestra on stage, yes, but also there are some virtual sources moving around, and there are some people playing on the stage. There's the video, there's the green screen, the mixed virtual and real reality coming together and mixed on the stage, not only audially but also visually. It was quite a complex production. It's still going on, actually. It's still on tour. And when the artist came to us and she had this 3D audio vision in her mind, we just made it possible in a way that she can just use the stage as effective as possible. And shortly after, we figured, because there were some musicians on stage, but also they are moving very often, and of course she's, even during the rehearsals on the creative process, she sometimes changes ideas and says, I think this would be better there than here, then we have to adapt it immediately. So a pre-communication for this case, for example, if we had a tracking system on stage, which we didn't have there, would make our job much easier. Maybe sometimes we don't have the budget, sometimes it's not communicated, but also, as you can see, it affects the show control design, like which tools and technologies you need to use on stage needs to be carefully communicated with the artist, with the system designer, or who is gonna do the show control, and so on and so forth. Yeah, as summary, everything is connected and needs to be communicated. Now, coming to the next scene, which is quite funny that we just had the situation while we were searching our seats, before giving too much spoiler, another 1 minute expert.
Ha! 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 Ho! Ho!
I am really sorry about this.
No, it's fine. You know, sweet.
My apologies. You've been sitting in it all along. Leonard, you want to slide over one?
No, just sit here.
Oh, yeah, this is it.
Is it really? Like, what is sweet spot? Does it get sweeter? Or what is the sweetest spot ever in this room, for example? We just looked quickly, and then I'm sitting next to Stefan Bock and Hölter there. It's definitely not the sweet spot, but depends on what. If I would like to have some breeze in between doors, then it might be one of the sweet spots in the room. If it's about a stereo imaging, then it's definitely not. If it's about visuals, it's not that either, because maybe I can't see thoroughly from where I sit. So sweet spot it is. And now Sheldon, maybe you know from the Big Bang Theory, was searching for the acoustical sweet spot. It's also another story, because he was checking the acoustical conditions of the room to find the best seat to get the most out of this movie that he is about to see. So when it comes to live sound reinforcement, the sweet spot is a little bit different, as mentioned. If it's stereo, if we had some stereo speakers here, usually the middle corridor is empty, as this is, and the stereo speakers are serving exactly to this empty spot. So this is where the stereo imaging works the best. And this is the sweet spot for stereo. And when it comes to object-based audio or spatial audio, the picture is a little bit different. But still, if you are dealing with Dolby Atmos, for example, maybe you've been in some Tonmeister Tagung shows or what else, there still you can't serve to a wide audience. The sweet spot it's still limited. Sometimes we are dealing with as much people as 20, 30,000 people. So where's the sweet spot in this scene? How to achieve that system design properly so you can at least get as much democracy as possible to each and every audience. I brought some definitions from Henning Kaltoiner's one of his presentations, where he was actually describing immersive in a very nice way that I would like to use today while defining my situations, to use this terminology as a reference. He sees, first of all, localized audio. It defines as realism. It's basically what indicates what you see is what you hear. If I'm standing here, speaking here, and if my voice is coming from where I am being seen at the moment, then the aim is achieved. During the presentation before, I was hearing, for example, some moving sources. Of course, you can never be sure if it's a bug or a feature, yeah? Sometimes in electronic music, happened to me once. There was a noise, started all of a sudden, and it was increasing, and I thought it's a feedback, and I was away from FOR, and I started to run like crazy to mute the system. But then it turns out it was a part of the art of the artist. So maybe it is a similar factor. The objects needed to move around the venue to get this image to everybody as much as possible. Maybe it's a way of doing things. But in general, if you have a classical music orchestra on stage, for example, or a four-piece band, an acoustical band that's amplified through a PA system, what you expect that if it's a bass player or if it's a guitar player, you would like to listen to this sound where the object is or the musician is located. This is the realism. And then comes virtual positioning, what we have listened in these examples in the beginning of today. There were two pieces with all objects running around the venue without any acoustical source on stage. These are virtual sources that we use also sometimes mixed with the realism. As you saw in Brigitte Muntendorf's example, there is an orchestra, Ensemble Modern, on stage, and she was mixing with some virtual sources moving around. So there are not really quite strict separation in between those definitions, actually. And comes virtual acoustics into scene. It's the room enhancement, so to say. If I want to create a cathedral sound within this space, I can do it through virtual acoustics tools we have that that's available today. And finally, there's the embedment, to be in the mix. At first, it was a bit hard for me to understand this and to separate from the virtual positioning, but he defines embedment as being in the mix, being surrounded by maybe atmospheric sounds or by sitting in the middle of the orchestra on stage, maybe virtually. So this is the definition I will use when I say virtual positioning or realism. Now you know what I mean. And I also brought you a general overview of our workflow, like how do we achieve to object-based audio in a live scene. You see here some instruments. It's a four-piece band, let's say, and our signals are coming into a stage box and then going further into a mixing console and being mixed by the FOA engineer in the venue, and then going further to our network infrastructure, and then we send our signals to amplifiers and then to the speakers, and then it reaches to our audience. Of course, we are using some software tools for system design and control. It might differ for every manufacturer. Like we have some big names in the field, the audiotechnik, Acoustics, or Meyer Sound. They all have their own system design and control tools that one can use while preparing and running the show. And with the object-based audio now, there is a new element in our workflow that we call it signal processor. It's in between, located in between, and kind of mixing all these elements together to produce an immersive sound, as I defined it before. How does it do that? And what is the differences in between channel-based audio? I think it's important to understand why we are all talking about object-based audio in live or mixing, why it is so big news, as we were already moving objects all around since a couple of decades, maybe. I'm not so good in history, but maybe Stefan, if Stefan says so, then must be true. So we were doing this by means of channel-based audio applications. Means if I have a 5.1 surround system, I can just do that as I do it in object-based audio with a one very important single difference. But before that, my AI-generated console is receiving the signals from my instruments in a channel-based audio application, And in this console, I am mixing out a 5.1 mix. And then I map those individual channels onto loudspeakers, which needs to be also 5.1 in this case for it to work, right? And when it comes to object-based audio, I can basically add some metadata into audio signals to make it a loudspeaker agnostic approach. Means my signals are the same, my musicians maybe are all the same, even my console is the same, but I'm getting some direct out signals from my console, and I am adding metadata to each signal that's coming out from my console in my signal processor that you were also seeing before. It renders audio data together with metadata and creates this positioning, also maybe virtual acoustics on top, or this embedment, all the things that I described before is happening within this renderer. And then I can map onto a set of loudspeakers as I wish to. It could be maybe 5.1, or it could be more and beyond. I'm no more loudspeaker dependent. I don't have to go back to my production and have a different mix out to be able to make the new surround channel-based application possible. Instead, I'm just maybe extending my plane or narrowing it down depending on the next venue that I go or the speaker configuration that I use. That's the biggest difference. You are no more loudspeaker dependent. One of the biggest difference, actually. And when it comes to the external control, this is, we have some software and hardware control possibilities. You see, you can use some DAW plugins to control or pre-program your show. Some show control softwares like Atlas, QLab, one of the industry standards, and newly released, not so new anymore, I guess, Grapes. That is also a universal tool that you can use in your control environment to control your objects, to move your objects, to change your rooms, to give a little bit more maybe space to one object than the other. All these kind of things can be controlled using a software control environment. And then hardware control. We have already available some console plugins of different manufacturers and some tracking systems. I was informed that there's also a tracking system here, although we didn't talk in detail, like for what they are using this. In our case, for example, when we are working with ZACTrack or Now Stage, one of the ZACTrack is a radio tracking technology, Now Stage is video-based. As mentioned before, like if Birgitta Muntendorf says I will have some moving objects on the stage, then I can just set a bunch of antennas, if it's a radio tracking system, and take each artist on stage, and I don't have to move with my hand anymore. Sometimes we are dealing with as much as 128 objects on stage. How you're gonna change then? How you're gonna make this change? How fast will you be? And how can you be simultaneous while doing this change if everybody's moving all together? So a tracking system is a lifesaver in that sense. And I brought you an example from a festival in Italy that BH Audio is involved every year since maybe, I don't know, 30 years. It's quite an old festival. There you see a wooden acoustic shell on top of the orchestra. Do you have a guess maybe why it is there? Maybe reverb, reflections, maybe we can say some, to provide some reflections to audience, but also to the musicians on stage. Because in an open air or in an unideal space like this, orchestras, especially when it's a huge orchestra that's placed on a stage in an open environment, imagine they are all used to play in a concert hall, and all of a sudden this concert hall acoustics, these reflections are not there anymore. They feel this flatness, and this of course reflects to their playing. They are playing differently, and many researchers out there, if you're interested, you can read and how this results in musicians performing. It's quite important. So one way of providing this reflection stem is to do some acoustical treatment or to achieve that electronically. There are some speakers there that are not visible, but I can assure you that they are there. Some 8 S's hanged in 3 rows above the orchestra. This came from one of the BH Audio partners, Massimo Carli. This idea, because it was so time and money consuming to build this wooden shell above the stage. He said, I might do it with loudspeakers maybe. Would you like me to try it? Yes. And then he did it, and it was sounding even better to them. So they just kept it electronically. This is quite remarkable when it comes to traditional musicians. They would be generally a little bit concerned about electroacoustic approach, but if they say it's even better, then probably we achieved something really good here. Oh. So, I also brought an example from Berlin Philharmonica show just recently happened, conducted by Riccardo Muti. I will be talking about the system design details in a more technical way in the upcoming Tonmeister Tagung, if you're there in November. Right now, I just would like to mention a couple of key points during our preparation and what we achieved as a result. This is a typical arena. They play basketball or volleyball, whatever you can think of is being played in this hall, but it's a multi-purpose hall. And sometimes it's also being used for concerts. And classical music is one of the way that you use this hall for, because especially when big names are coming like Berlin Philharmonica or Riccardo Muti, then they would like to sell as much seats as possible. And maybe in a small concert hall environment that's commonly existing in Italy, it's not always so profitable. They need to then make multiple concerts to achieve the same profit out of what they achieve here. But of course, Berliner Philharmonic, Riccardo Muti already have been using this type of systems very often, and he has the full trust. Although Berlin Philharmonica, of course, naturally came with some concerns, and they were not sure how it would sound in an arena like this, if it's a good approach to do the concert here instead of there in this beautiful concert hall. At the end, it looked completely different. I would like to make you have a listen very shortly. competence is not in video recording, but I did my best to demonstrate some things nicely. Here you see another type of wooden acoustic shell that is behind the orchestra for the same reason, but on top also for visual effects of it. And as a result, actually, the next day there were in the press with bold and big letters how amazing it sounded in Paladozze. Paladozza is the name of the arena, by means of this wooden acoustic shell, which has actually nothing to do for the audience, but for a little bit for the orchestra, but for the visual concerns. We felt a bit disappointed because we worked so hard and it was so hot, and we worked very, very long for a week of period to make this happen. But we made the loudspeakers invisible, like they were not being seen. That could be seen as a good or negative thing, because we were convinced at the end, if they couldn't recognize the loudspeakers, if they were invisible, then it's a good achievement. That means it sounded as natural as possible to them. So we decided to just not sue anybody for that. I would like to just show you the surrounding of the arena to give you an idea very shortly. So you saw the sides of the stage were empty because we didn't design for this seats. We knew that it would be visually impossible to see the orchestra. So we did the system design accordingly. Again, we came to the same point of everything being connected. So that was it. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions? Thank you.